This is our Meals and Moments series that I put out every 2 weeks, and it goes through the meals that I'm making, but it also gets to share more of what's going on in our lives, and it's kind of like a diary for me. If you're just meeting me, my name is Amy Cross, and this is the Cross Legacy, where I teach you how to save money on groceries. Our grocery budget is $135 per person, and it's just my husband and I that officially live here in this house. But now we live closer to family, so we have many guests over all of the time. This video starts out on March 1st and it goes through the first 2 weeks of the month, but I haven't went grocery shopping since February 7th. I made just a really easy chicken and rice casserole for dinner, but I did some sneaky things to it. The first thing I did was I added some of that frozen pumpkin into the dish and also some cooked chicken that I pulled out of the freezer, and I had cooked rice that I pulled out of the freezer too. So I was able to whip up these things really quickly, and then some of that cheese fondue that we had left over from Valentine's Day I had also put in the freezer, and we had a easy meal with freezer components that I was able to whip up in just a few minutes. I did add a few frozen peas to this just to give it a pop of color. So I don't always have like casseroles ready to go in the freezer, but I love that I had all these individual ingredients that I could throw into a pan and make whatever we were craving for dinner that night. And while I was cooking dinner, I noticed it was the first night that it was after 6 o'clock and it was still daylight out. We were just a couple days before daylight savings, so now all summer long dinner time will be when it's light out, but it just makes my heart so happy to have more blue skies. On this day, I took a completely frozen roast and I threw it in the crock pot with just some beef broth in there, and I let that cook. And so it ends up being a really nice stringy roast, which is our favorite way to have roast. But I love that I don't have to think about it beforehand. I can just put it totally frozen in the Instapot. And with that, we had some home canned green beans and some home canned pears that I had found when I was unpacking the pantry. And some of those were 3 to 5 years old, so I wanted to make sure that we are eating them up, especially as we are moving into spring and thinking about new harvest seasons. Mike had the plague at the end of the last video for a few days, and everybody was feeling fine here at the house. And so I always think that's the best time to go through your cold medicines and make sure that you have everything that you need. So I went through all of our over-the-counter kind of things, made sure we had pain relievers, over-the-counter cold and flu medicines, checking all those expiration dates and making sure I didn't need to order anything else. Those Best By dates, I try to kind of stick with, but you can use them up to 2 to 3 years afterwards, as long as it's not liquid. And I rather have a little bit extra over-the-counter medicines that we need just in case of an emergency, because especially where we live now, there are no stores open after 9 p.m. While I was going through this, I also was checking our sunscreens out and making sure that the Best By date on those were all the way past the summer. So it's a good time to check and make sure that those are still good, or if you need to order more. And while I was putting things away, I also found a box that had some special mementos in it. And I just thought this was a really good reminder to talk about. But I found my jewelry that I wore to prom. And so I made sure that I made a little note and put it in the jewelry box to let my kids know someday why that jewelry was special. It was the prom that Dad and I went to in 1994. Since I was in such a mood to organize things and declutter, I did not want to stop and cook dinner. So we just pulled that goulash out that we had in the freezer that I had made in the video before, and we warmed that up and had it for dinner. I'll probably mention these 3 different times in this video, but I'm so excited that the very first daffodils are starting to bloom in our yard. I had planted like 300 bulbs at the beginning of the fall when we first moved into the house, and so it's so exciting to see the new blooms happening. We had spent the entire day out in the yard, and so one of the times that I came into the house, I went down to the freezer and I got out a container of taco meat, knowing that that would defrost in a couple hours and then we could have it for dinner. And we were trying to find some of the flower beds that are in the backyard. They were totally grassed over, and we didn't know until we cut the grass that there was actually a border and they should have been flower beds. I did take the picture of this jar after I had already put most of the chips onto the tray. I'd like to have a reminder here to talk about a $6 bag of chips from Costco will last a couple months in glass jars and won't get stale. So I love that we can use up that whole bag all of the way, and I've only paid $6 for it. So with those nachos, we had the taco meat, we had cheese, we had black beans on that. There was peppers, there was onion, and there were still fresh avocados. And remember, I haven't went to the grocery store in over 3 weeks at this point, and I still had fresh avocados. And then we served that with fermented salsa. I can't get Mike to eat sauerkraut, but I can get him to eat fermented salsa, and it has the same benefits. I had my favorite little helper here, and we went down to the garden center and we got to pick out plants to go into our garden bed. So this will be our first spring garden bed that we planted peas and broccoli and some different lettuces. Mike actually made a request for French dips for dinner when I was kind of asking him what I should get the next time I go grocery shopping. But as he was asking that, I just also happened to see an Instagram reel of somebody talking about making hoagie rolls, and they were done within an hour. So I thought I would try that out. I had that leftover roast that was all shredded up from a few days prior that I had put into the freezer. And then I just made hoagie rolls while Mike was working on other projects. And we had that. I sometimes like just some quiet time in the kitchen by myself, which is nice on the weekends. And then I ended up making some avocado ranch dip, which is a high protein ranch dip, with that other half of the avocado from the nachos the night before. And then we were eating up the last of the peppers and the carrots that we had left. I like to be able to make a ranch too, because we always get Greek yogurt and cottage cheese when we go to Costco, and that way you can use either one of them when you're trying to use them up before going to the grocery store again. So this almost sent us to the grocery store. We were trying to push it out to not go to the grocery store until a certain day, which was actually like 34 days since the last time we went to the grocery store. But we actually ran out of milk, which would have been okay for milk in itself, but I need creamer in my coffee, and I normally use the whole milk in my coffee. And so it has to be a certain color of tan, just the way my grandma used to do it. I do have a few different options for milk in the pantry that we were able to use. So I ended up opening up a can of evaporated milk and putting that in our coffee, and we were so happy it was the color it should be, and it got us through until we went grocery shopping. So I know I've mentioned in past videos that we have moved into this 80-year-old house, and we've found 80 years worth of problems in the unfinished part of the basement. That is the laundry room and going to be our new pantry. So some of those things that we've been fixing for the last few months was some of the electrical and some of the plumbing that we knew that needed to be fixed. Mike isn't ready for us to finish the walls in there yet. He wants to make sure that we still have access. So it's just kind of down to the studs and the unfinished part of it. But it doesn't look pretty, and it's kind of driving me crazy because I like things to look nice. So we ended up compromising on this, and I had found some cabinets that were on sale. And so those were supposed to come like in 3 to 4 weeks, and they showed up in just a few days. So we have some brand new cabinets that are still in boxes that we needed help to get them down the stairs because they were so heavy. But I can't wait to get these cabinets put together in a couple weeks and be able to really show you what the pantry is going to look like. I pulled out a couple of those gyros that we get at Costco and out of the freezer, and I put those on a cooking sheet and then just added some shredded mozzarella cheese. Again, I bought that months ago and it's been in the freezer, so I love to be able to have things to make a pizza super easy. I pulled out cooked chicken again out of the freezer. So we had a barbecue chicken pizza with barbecue sauce on it and peppers and onions. And again, we're using those same ingredients, but it's a completely different meal. And this was a good reminder too that we had went and grabbed a barbecue sauce out of the pantry to go into the refrigerator. So when we get it out of the pantry, that backup one, that is when that goes on my list, not when it's almost empty in the refrigerator, when we go to open the backup. I have purchased Italian sausage a few months ago before the holidays. I think it was in November, and I didn't use it all, and I had just frozen it in the styrofoam container, which they will get freezer burned if you keep those in the freezer for more than 3 months. So I wanted to make sure that I was using that up, and I still had some spaghetti squash left that was fall decorations that I washed that has been in a pantry basket for the last couple of months, and I want to make sure that I'm using all the squash up. So we ended up having spaghetti squash with Italian meatballs with marinara sauce that I also made way back in the fall, and that was in the freezer. So a lot of these meals this time, besides for those hoagie rolls that I made, were really simple things that I was just rotating out of the freezer this time. When I was making those barbecue pizzas a couple nights before, any of the leftover chicken that I had a little bit of mozzarella cheese left and a little bit of those veggies. I just threw it all into one glass container and put it in the refrigerator. And this day we ended up having them on tortillas with salsa, those same ingredients, and that is what we ate before we went grocery shopping. So we didn't go grocery shopping until March 11th. I had filmed a podcast that day, and so my anxiety was high, and that you have an adrenaline rush during the interview, and then you kind of calm down, and then that's when we ate something before we went into the larger town city next to us, and we went to Costco and did some errands. That March grocery shopping haul we already have up on the channel. We make sure to put those up within just a couple days of going grocery shopping, and so that is already on the channel, and we talked about the special event that was coming up in that video, so you might have already heard what we were getting ready to plan for. We were getting wind gusts of up to 60 miles per hour. So both of us were trying to hold onto the cart and load the groceries up. And even when I got into the car, we had to hold 2 hands to close the car door. It was so windy here. We were worried that we were going to lose power. So we did eat dinner while we were in the larger town before we came back to our more rural town. And that way we knew that we wouldn't have to worry about dinner late in the evening. So that night when we got home, we did not worry about washing any produce. We were just trying to get everything put away into the refrigerator pretty much as quickly as we could. And I didn't film the grocery haul that night. Again, we were worried we were going to lose power, and I didn't want to be in the middle of things. So the next day is actually when I pulled everything back out and I filmed the grocery haul video, and I also washed all the produce that day that I had bought. And while I was getting all those things ready, we thought we had family and company that were coming into town either that night or the next morning, but we kept watching the past reports, and they were getting so much snow that all the highways were closed. So they ended up not coming into town for the weekend like we had thought they were coming, and it was okay. But I'm really glad that when we were thinking about the things that we were buying to get ready for them to come, that I was just able to repurpose those items, and some of the items just went into the freezer instead. And so we will still be able to use those same groceries that we bought, like the cinnamon rolls, when they come into town in a few weeks when the weather's better. We like to have chicken salad sandwiches on croissants, and we normally have that with grapes and celery, and I had bought both of those during this grocery shopping haul. So I wanted to be able to make those chicken salad sandwiches, and whatever we didn't use for that night, the other croissants ended up in the freezer, and then we can just pull them out over the next couple months. That canned chicken, I'm trying to rotate out a little bit. The Best By date on that says 2024. It was extra canned chicken I bought during the pandemic, so we want to make sure it's being used up. But that is a low acidity item, so that stays good for 3 years past the Best By date. I don't have an embroidery project to share with you this time because I've actually been spending my non-screen relaxing evening time reading this book. This book was suggested to me by my friend Ryan, who's like a dad to me. And this is one of his family members that actually passed away. And so he asked me if I would purchase this book because it's going to help his kids. And so I was really glad when I started reading the book, it was actually really good. So I told them if I liked the book, I would do a review, and I actually really loved this book. It was talking about some high schoolers and some things that they were going through. I was really picky and conservative when it came to the books that my kids were reading when they were in school, in high school, and this is a book I would definitely recommend. So I really did love this book. I love that it's going to support his kids and his legacy. And if you want to check it out, we will put the Amazon link in the description. My favorite little was over for the day and wanted some mac and cheese, but I don't really buy mac and cheese very often. I did buy these little shell pastas when I went to the grocery store, and I pulled some more of that frozen pumpkin out of the freezer, and I made pumpkin macaroni and cheese and made somebody very happy. And I just kind of think it's turned full circle, because I remember my cousins asking for Eggo waffles, and my grandma also saying that she didn't buy things like that and whipping up waffles at the time. So I just love that I'm kind of walking in those footsteps of our grandparents. So this was the day that we were so excited for. This is the first time that we are having a big party at our house. And for us, 30 people is a big party at our house. So besides for just a couple friends, nobody else has been here since we moved in. And this is actually marking the 6-month anniversary of moving into the house too. So I am just so blessed that now we are moved closer to our kiddos, and all of our special people live practically in walking distance to us, and there will never be a storm that keeps us on the other side of the mountains from them. So we hosted the party at our house, but the guest of honor and the main hostess for the party was not me. And so I offered to provide the house, and I also provided a couple of the things for the people that were going to be here. So one of the things that I was doing was a cheese and meat board that I also added some nuts and some dried fruit to. And I've done charcuterie boards for events before that were 16 feet long and fed hundreds of people. So to make one that only fed 30 was super easy and in my wheelhouse. I did put Gouda cheese on this cheese board, and I just kind of took a little quick video while I was cutting it up in case it's helpful for somebody else. But those huge wedges of cheese that you can get from Costco, I divided that directly in half. So I had about 2 inches of a triangle. And then I tried to show you with the knife what I was doing. I might end up doing this for another video when I pull the cheese out again, but I was able to make 2 diagonal cuts from the very top of the cheese down on each side. And then I was able to make 1 across. And so each of those wedges ended up making 4 triangles. And then the other half of that I was able to put away and put in the refrigerator. It was there if I needed to add more meat and cheese to the platter, but in case I didn't, that way it wasn't going to go to waste either, because I really don't like to repurpose things that have been out for a crowd. I rather just keep refilling the plate whenever I need to. And I'm kind of an introvert. So if I can go sneak away to the kitchen for a few minutes and have a social break, that's kind of good for me too. So while we were grocery shopping and we were planning on our friends coming into town and then having this party, and then the day that they were leaving, somebody else came into town who's standing behind the camera right now. But we had bought extra lettuce and croutons and also Caesar salad dressing instead of buying a bag of Caesar salad. That way I could wash the lettuce, which makes me happy. And also it worked out really well because our friends ended up not being able to come. And that way that lettuce will last for a month in my glass container and we'll be able to repurpose it. And that Caesar salad dress can go into my cabinet and I don't need to open it yet. And this was kind of fun when we were going back and forth on text messages with the family thread that we normally have going on. I was asked if I could make the fruit tray and the veggie tray. And so I thought that I was making the fruit tray and the veggie tray. I didn't realize that they were planning on bringing the ingredients to my house for me to make them. So when I went grocery shopping, I had bought a little bit extra of things that would go on those trays, and I had washed the produce already and put it away. I was kind of surprised that then these groceries showed up at my house and I was washing strawberries like 2 hours before the party. But I get now where we were going back through the message thread that they were going to provide the fruit and veggies, and I bought extra, which we will end up eating. And I just thought it was really funny that I ended up needing to wash strawberries right before the party. And I just love that even though we weren't really hosting the party, that my kiddos were making sure that all of the details were taken care of. And then my kiddos took care of having the pizzas here, which also was a good thing because it was just Papa Murphy's. So I had to come into the kitchen a little bit more and check the pizzas and pull them out. They were willing to do it. Again, I like to have little social breaks, so that made it kind of nice for me. So we had pizza and cupcakes and then just those 3 trays that we were talking about, and everybody was really happy. We also planned this in the middle of the afternoon, so we didn't feel like we had to feed them for a full meal. So it was at 3 o'clock and not at dinner time. And I just thought these were super cute and such a great idea for decoration that we just took some leftover plates that we had and hot glued them together and made these cute little flowers that are perfect for spring. And that's 2 weeks of my life. That's the very first 2 weeks of March. This is the Meals and Moments number 5 video. There is an entire playlist of these videos for 2026 and 2025, which is just a kind of a fun way to learn how I'm using these ingredients that I am bringing home and cycling out things in my freezer, but also the sneak peeks that you get behind the scenes that might give you a little bit of a hint of what's going on in our life. So if you're new here, welcome. I hope you hit subscribe and you follow along.